Hi, it's Rick. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be making a die cut sympathy card using products from Pixie Dust Designs and from my stash. And we're going to be using just die cuts. Let's get into it. So we're going to be using the Daffodil Dies set and the Bella Flower pattern paper. I've pulled some cardstock from my stash. I originally thought I was going to do this card a little bit different and just layer up with the three different colors of the orange cardstock, but I ended up changing my mind, and you'll see that in a minute. So I've cut all my pieces out from my cardstock, and I'm going to run as many as I can through my die cutting machine as possible. And I'm going to put all my little pieces into my little container. And this is where I changed my mind. After I laid them out and started to think, okay, well, this needs a little bit more than what it is. So I pulled in some alcohol markers. I'm using my Ohuhu markers, and I'm going to mark where my shadows on my first back layer is going to be. And this is Y5. I'm going to blend that up, and I'm going to blend everything out with, this is going to be R070. I'm going to blend that Y5 out, and I'm going to blend that out with 090, or YR090, and that was YR070 and YR090. So I'm going to layer this piece back up, and I'm going to mark my shadows on my next layer. And I'm going to use those same colors and add my depth and dimension to my die cut pieces. Had I thought about doing this beforehand, I could have saved time and cut everything from white cardstock scraps and just colored them with my markers. But I did not think when I was doing this that that's how I was going to end up doing my card. I thought I was just going to layer it up with the die cut pieces. But then once I laid it out, I decided it needed a little bit more. So never be afraid to change your mind while you're working. You can always change your mind and come up with something different. So don't think about that, or think about that while you're working. If something's just not working quite right, feel free to change your mind. All right, we're going to layer up our little stamen pieces, and this was a little tricky, but it's super easy. It's easier than you think. Just take your time and pinch everything into place with your liquid glue, and everything will fall right where it's supposed to, as long as you just have to pinch it a little bit and move everything around. So don't be afraid to do that. Use a tweezers or a pen or something to move things around to get it where you need it. And then we're going to layer it onto our piece. And to me, this looks more like a lily than it does a daffodil. So I made it as a lily. So I'm going to add that top layer that I layered up with the bottom and the top. And I think I should have attached this stem first on the bottom and then layered that piece right there on top. But I didn't do that. I added them together because, that's me. So I did add some shading underneath where that shadow would be. And I'm going to add some right there where this shadow would be on the as it sits on the flower and holds the flower. I did come back and add a little bit darker. So I'm going to add some liquid glue right behind that, and I just attach that to our flower die cut. And by the way, we are making the most dreaded card ever. We're making a sympathy card. So we're going to do a top folding A2 card base, and I've just made sure that was nice and scored. I'm going to pull out my Bella Flower pattern paper pack from Pixie Dust Designs. And I'm going to pick out my main pattern. I chose this orangey peach color pattern. And then I'm going to pick some other pieces that I have already, some scraps that I had left. I'm going to do that pink polka dot and the little leaf pattern here. Add that pink in it. I'm going to cut a die cut frame from using the arch dies that I have, my infinity arches, from Bristol cardstock and the peach cardstock. I'll have all the supplies listed below if you're interested. I appreciate it when you use my links because that helps me keep these videos going for free. Helps me buy the supplies and take care of paying bills for the household. All right, so we're going to add in, I cut that pink paste down, I believe it's 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm going to cut this one down to 1 3/4 by 4 1/4. The big piece I cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 is going to fit the entire card front. I'm going to ink blend using Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink. A cloud background, so it doesn't have to be super perfect. I want some of the white to show through, because it's going to be my clouds. I did discover my brush. I should have cleaned it before I went into the Speckled Egg. It did have some Stormy Sky still on it, but that was fine. It worked out just fine and perfect. Let me know if you like to make die-cut cards in the comments below. And we'll talk about that. All right, I'm going to add my pattern paper piece to the card front. It goes down the entire front of the card. It fits that entire card front. And then I'm going to layer on my pink polka dotted pattern paper right in the center. So we're just going to attach that right down. And then to break the patterns up and add a little bit more interest, we're going to add that leaf pattern right here. And I'm going to put that right in the center of the polka dot, which is perfect because you can line it up with the lines in the polka dots because they're nice and straight. I'm going to take and attach my background to my matte layer here of that peach cardstock. And then we're going to pop all that art up onto some foam tape. And I'm going to peel those backings off and add a little bit of liquid glue on the back so we have room to, or a little wiggle room, I should say. So I'm just going to attach that, make sure it's nice and straight. And then once I get that in place, I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape behind the head of my flower and attach that. And I'm going to, once I get that attached where I want it, I'm going to lift up the stem and add just a bead of glue right underneath the stem. And I'll hold that in place with a little block until it dries. And then I'm going to start my sentiment. I'm going to start with the largest word first, which is sympathy. And that's also part of this same die set. So I just cut it out of cardstock that matched our paper. And I'm just adding little beads of glue underneath. You could use adhesive sheets, but I don't usually use those. So I'm just going to dot little pieces of liquid glue. That's why the precision tip comes in handy on the Barely Art glue. We're going to attach that down, make sure it's nice and secure, and we're going to do the same thing with our width. But by putting the larger sentiment down first, it allowed me to get the perfect placement for the other part of the sentiment. So I'm just going to make sure that's nice and in place. And then I'm going to come in with my Spectrum Noir Aqua Shimmer, Spectrum Noir Clear Overlay Glitter Pen. That's a mouthful. Once that was dry, I added highlights to the floral part of the card. And I'm also going to add some highlights on the sentiment. I couldn't decide. But anywhere there's a loop on your sentiment is normally where it's going to be hit with a highlight. So that's where I'm placing most of them, or the long pattern. But definitely on any loop or little hump, I added a highlight to each one of those, like for the M and for the S. There would be highlights on those parts, so I'm just adding those. And we're just going to keep this card super simple, just like this. And that finishes off my card. Here's a look at the closer look. I'm going to lift it up with the camera. Here's a closer look at the card in the video. And if you like this video, you're probably going to like the one coming up next. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Love you.